another CX quick tip. And I'm always excited to have Chip Bell with me. Chip, thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks, Jim. We always have a great time.
Yes, we do. Okay, so now for those who haven't had the opportunity to participate in a CX quick tip, we only take 10 minutes, but what we try to do is get deep within a particular subject and topic so that you can have actionable insights to take forward and really make a difference in the customer experience. And today we're going to be talking about updating your methods in customer feedback analysis. Now, Chip, you actually shared with me a couple different perspectives, but if you could kind of let us know what you mean as far as the changing our perspectives and changing our methods with this.
Well, Jim, I think it starts with what are your goals? What are you really trying to do with the outreach and inquiry you have for the customer? I like to put it in two buckets. I want to evaluate and I want to get feedback. Evaluating means, did you like us? What was your reaction? On a 1 to 10 scale, how would you give us a 10? Those kind of things are all about the customer's evaluation. The other side is feedback, and feedback is really primarily for improvement, for growth, for to help you enhance what you do. And so it's that side that I'd like to focus most of it on. And I think it starts with too many organizations sort of go into the deal with saying, I already kind of got a preconceived idea of what they're going to say. And I'm really out there just sort of confirming what I already know. And to me, that's the pursuit of what I call understanding your customer as opposed to insight. If you aren't surprised by what your customer tells you, you aren't asking the right kind of questions. So I think it starts with, I want to, out of my inquiry to the customer in whatever form it takes, I want to get some ahas, some insights, God, I never thought about it like that. Now I know why they do this. So it's trying to get behind what the customer says and better understand their rationale, their whys. And so I think it takes a sort of a treasure hunting approach. That's why I say, if you aren't surprised, you aren't asking the right kind of question, as opposed to confirmation of what I already sort of know. But that, to me, that's what we ought to be going for. Along the way, we gain a deeper understanding of the customer, what matters to them and what's important and what they're like.
So then, all right. So for me, if I'm talking about being proactive with my analysis in order to be able to come out of the activity and the investment in customer feedback, based on what you were saying, is I need to do quantitative and qualitative analysis. So
absolutely. Yeah, but we need both. And, I was working with a CEO a couple of years back, and I was asking about their customer feedback process. And I said, what's the most important part to you? And he said, the verbatims. And I go, tell me more. He said, well, yeah, there's only so much you can get from the quantitative side, but to really understand the sort of psychic of the customer and how it's really impacting them and what really matters to them, you got to read what they fill in, what you got to read sort of their, and so what he was saying is the qualitative side, we can't make that into a chi-square and do standard deviations, but he was saying that part is the rich part that that gives you a much richer in understanding of what's matters and what's important to that customer. Both are important, but sometimes we get so enamored with the quantitative side because it's so true, so real, so accurate, so certain that we miss the qualitative side. So if you ask your spouse on a 1 to 10 scale, how would you rate our marriage? And you didn't ask the B part of that, you might not learn much.
Very true. Okay. So, and one of the reasons, we often find that organizations aren't doing the qualitative measurement because it's not easy, right? Being able to analyze qualitative, insights and feedback and all of that, it's a very rigorous process. You can keyword and key phrase and key spot, and you can do all that. Some tools can help you with that.
Sure.
But it does take effort, but it's an investment. Right. And I think that's part of the focus and talking about the methods is looking at it as an investment.
Exactly.
Versus an expense.
Right. Absolutely. It is. And it's so, it deepens our understanding. And I can give you counseling. Great companies, if you look at the great customer experience companies, they want to know what they fill in with, not what number they gave us. I want to know the why. Tell me about give me your reason for that. They want to know more about that. Okay, and that's what you grow for. That's what you learn from. And so, that's They're both important, but I'd say don't give short shrift to the qualitative side.
So you had talked about a couple things: goals, also sources, where this insight and information is coming from, alignment, and then also being proactive with it. And you mentioned something about, um, being able to use focus groups. I've also seen where a lot of people use ethnographic studies.
Yep.
So when you start talking about, being proactive with our measurement, what do you mean?
Well, I think the more we can get real-time data, we always talk about customer feedback's a rear view mirror. But I think you do a lot of things when in the pursuit of real-time data, in the fact that you're causing the customer to believe you really care about making improvements. But the other side to real-time data, with the emphasis on the first word, real time, is the fact that it's authentic, it's real, and it's usually derived from people who know the customer, people who are face to face with the customer. I think one of our most underutilized resources for getting customer inquiry and feedback is the front line. They hear the stories, but it's not just the front line. Hey, let's go ask the front line, what are you hearing? What are customers fussing about? What do they not like, et cetera. I think if we look upon them as our most valuable scout, not just our ambassador, but our scout, then I don't want to just throw any person out there to be a scout. If I'm the captain of a fort in the old Wild Wild West, I don't just say, hey, you're going to be my scout. I'm going to pick somebody who's shrewd at doing it, who's resourced to do it, who's prepared to do it, and somebody, most importantly, who knows that work is valued. And so when they come back after 3 days out there in the wilderness, and they're all wide-eyed when they get back, you don't tell them you got to go to a meeting. You can't hear what they got to say right then, so to speak, if you're back to my Wild West example in the fort. And so I think it is how we treat the front line as those scouts that is most critical in ensuring that they begin to pay attention to the things that matter to the customer and things you want to know about. About the third time you ask the front line, tell me what you're hearing, they're going to go, hey, it must be important. They keep asking me that same question. They keep paying attention to what I do. I need to listen differently. I need to have real good answers. I need to pay it. And so you're help train that person, prepare that person to have that antenna open all the time to the nuances of what the customer is trying to tell you.
Okay, so as you're saying that, I'm starting to think about, my days in operations, kind of crossing the line sometimes between that measurement that you were talking about and that accountability, and then that insight generation and creation. I mean, oftentimes those are opposing one another and in conflict with one another. How do we keep that from happening?
Well, here again, you got to it starts with what's important, what's really, really important. And I think if it's really, really important, then you make it the priority. How much time is spent in every staff meeting saying, what have we learned this week about our customer? What do we know new about our customer? Here again, to me, it's a leadership priority that says this is important and we're going to put attention to it and effort to it. And so to me, it starts there. I mean, it's you can ask Gary Kelly at Southwest Airlines how important it is. Ask Hervé Humbler at Ritz Carlton how important it is. You'll get a very different answer than a company that's not really it doesn't see customer service as that particularly important.
Chip Bell. So if I started looking at where measurement programs are today, customer feedback analysis, and where they need to be, what's one or two things that we absolutely need to do today?
I think we need to be thinking about the future. And so, I always say, I want to know where the customer is, but I also want to know where they're going. And so to me, it begins to reshape the scope of what we do and how we go about doing it. If we want to promote growth and progress in our organization, and what organization doesn't, then we've got to be thinking about, okay, what's around the corner, and I want to get my customer to help me see around the corner to what's coming next. It's not just, I always like to say, it's important to know their needs and expectations, but it's equally important to know what their hopes and aspirations might be. And so when you're pursuing hopes and aspirations, not just needs and expectations, when you're looking at the future, not just the present, then you're leaning forward in a way that enables you to be progressive and grow as an organization. It also allows you to be anticipatory, and that what blows the customer's mind is when, how'd you know I needed that? How did you know I wanted that? And so when we are ahead of the game and in such a way that we are there even before the customer is, because we know them that well and sort of anticipate where they're going. Wayne Gretzky kind of line about, I just go where it's going to be. Same concept. But again, it takes the customer helping us do that. We can't just do it in the vacuum with some fancy crystal ball. I think the more we ask customers those kind of future questions, what's something nobody's doing that would be cool for us to do? What do you wish we could do that we don't do now, that nobody does? Well, asking those kind of dreamer questions, I call them, is going to help take us, I think, to a new place and a new plateau with the customer. And it signals to the customer that they matter to you, because you're not only trying to be responsive, you're trying to be anticipatory. To me, that's an important signal to that customer. I'm with a company that's going to be around a long time, because look, they're already doing things way out there in the future.
And a very vital word for the remaining 2021 year going into 2022, anticipatory. Chip Bell, thanks for sharing time with us today. How do CX Igniters get in touch with you?
Thanks, Jim. They can always reach me at chipbell.com. It's a website I can remember.
And Chip Bell is also a frequent contributor to CX Global Media and participates in these CX Quick Tips on a continuous basis. So come back and see Chip and myself and others sharing good insights that you can act upon today. Chip Bell, thanks for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and we wish you the very best.
My pleasure, Jim. Thank you so much.